Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is a pretty chilly November day, and unfortunately it's been so for the last few weeks. Therefore I didn't have really much or many possibilities to record footage. Obviously I'm not driving around in my orange car in these particular conditions, and I prefer the weather to be nicer, at least a little bit nicer, when driving with my green car. So in this video today, both of the cars won't be present. However, I have something else for this video, so just bear with me for a few minutes. I'm just walking here in this local park that I was in the last video. So it's a very nice walk here. You can chill out after a particular hard day, or just for activity purposes. There's a lot you can do in here. You can run, you can ride your bike, you can go with your dogs. So there's a lot of possibilities. Farther back in the park there's even a possibility to do some different sports as well. And basically it is a very good opportunity to just calm down. So as I won't be driving or talking to you about any of my two cars, I have been thinking about what to talk about in this video, and I've decided upon telling you a short story about two cars, obviously two Fiat 126Ps that I had in the distant past. It's almost 10 years, and as they are no longer present, I've decided to tell you this short story. But before going into the story, let me show you how this park looks from here. So it is a very nice view. You can rest on the park bench as well, which I'm going to do right now. So let me just take a seat here, and you can probably hear that I'm kind of out of breath. I used to run in this park a few laps, but that's a few years ago. I haven't been doing that for quite some time, which obviously I should do again. But just enjoying the view here. It is very nice, although it's a little bit cold. However, when there's snow, real snow, then it looks absolutely impressive. But let's continue with the video. So in order to begin this little story time, I have to go back to the year 2011, just a few months after I received my red Fiat 126P, which has become the orange one. And I was just curiously browsing through the internet to see what cars are available at which prices, and within maybe a few minutes I found a very particular looking car. And back then I really wasn't into any technical things of the car. I was very naive, so I was going for how does the car look. And this one, as you can see in the picture, looked very interesting. And another advantage that this car had was that it was selling in a place that my parents were currently vacationing in. So communicating was very easy. My father checked the car out, obviously just basic things, and so it was quickly decided that I want to buy this car. It was very cheap, so again I wasn't thinking very much of anything else but the looks of the car. And Then I had the car transported to where I normally am in Poland, and a few weeks later I took the plane here from Linz to Berlin, then went on from Berlin to Poland. Again, that's maybe like 2 hours apart or farther into Poland, to check the car out myself. And like you see in the pictures, it looked very good. It had some tuning done. The tuning was somewhat questionable, but it was done anyway, and it looked good on this car. And you can clearly see that the tires were far too wide for this car, and that is illegal in Poland as well, so I had to switch tires if I wanted to go anywhere with the car. Another thing was that the steering wheel was smaller than a regular one, which made the car hard to steer even with regular tires, but with the wide ones basically impossible. Luckily, a good friend of our family knew a guy who was selling his old rusty Fiat 126P, and I managed to buy it for like 150 euros, which is very cheap. So I did that, ripped out the parts that I needed for the car, the steering wheel, the tires, and maybe some other things as well, but I don't remember which they were. It's been almost 10 years. So I used those parts that I needed, took the car apart, and the rest of it I had scrapped. So then the car was basically street legal, and I was allowed to drive it on the streets, and I decided to go home. Back then I drove back home through Germany, because back then I didn't know if the roads in the Czech Republic were very well equipped as they are now 10 years later. So the choice was pretty easy to make. So I wasn't thinking about very much, I would say. I jumped into the car pretty early in the morning because I wanted to be back home in the late afternoon or maybe early evening. So I was on the road for, I would say, 4 to 5 hours, and I had to go to a gas station, and this particular stop will stay with me for the rest of my life. So I was leaving the gas station, and suddenly I heard a noise coming from the engine. So I switched off the car immediately, went to the back of the car to see what happened, and there I saw that I have lost a screw that holds the exhaust pipe to the engine block, and the other screw broke in the middle, and so I lost one half of it, and the second half was stuck in the engine block. So I'm in the middle of Germany, 4 to 5 hours into my drive, not even half of the way behind me, and I'm lost. I don't know what to do. So I calmed down a little bit and called the ADAC, which is the German equivalent to the AAA in America and the ÖAMTC here in Austria. I don't know at the moment what's it called in the UK. Sorry for that. So the guy arrived maybe 40 minutes after I called them and MacGyvered a quick solution. It wasn't an ideal solution, but it did the job, and the exhaust pipe held. And at this moment I didn't want to jinx anything, and I decided not to listen to the radio until I'm home. So fast forward a few hours, I guess it was around 6 hours, and I got bored of just hearing the engine. So I decided to switch on the radio, and a few minutes later, just a few kilometers farther, I heard another huge sound coming from the engine. So I take the next exit on the Autobahn, looked for a safe parking space, and obviously to check out what's happened. And I'm opening up the engine, and I saw the the complete exhaust pipe burst. It just exploded. So I'm in the middle of nowhere, not exactly know where I am, and cars are passing by, and after a few minutes somebody stopped and asked me what's happening, why I'm standing here in the dark. So I explained the situation, that my exhaust pipe just exploded and I can't go on. And this man was very nice to me because he offered to help me. I only had to follow him for maybe 3 kilometers to his workshop, and he welded the pipe back together so I can go on. And in the meantime, I called my father to explain the situation, and as he was a professional truck driver most of his life, he knew exactly where I was, which exit I took, and jumped into the car and drove to where I was, which was roughly 90 kilometers from Linz here. The distance from Linz to the German border is around 100 kilometers, so it was around 90. And then we drove back together, and that is almost the entire story of this black gold car. I've had it for another few months, and then I decided to use it as payment for a mechanic who was working on my red Fiat 126P. And as I didn't want to pay very much, we decided that he will take the car instead of money. And in the end, it turned out to be a pretty sweet deal for me, because the car wasn't worth very much, and the work that the mechanic did was very bad, I would say, because I had the technical inspection for the car then, and it failed, especially the brake test, because one brake was working basically like 100% and the other one didn't work at all. So if I used the brakes, the car would steer to the left side, if I remember correctly, and therefore I had to repair the brakes again in a different workshop and go to the technical inspection once again, which was frustrating, but in the end obviously I managed to do that. And with that, the story of the black gold car ends. Obviously the history of the white old rusty Fiat 126P was very short. I bought it, used the parts I needed, took it apart and scrapped it. So that is the story of the two cars that I had some time ago, and I guess that's a nice filler episode for until the next proper video with either the orange car or the green one, possibly or probably with the green one, because it's getting colder in the winter. But let's see what's going to happen. I certainly hope you enjoyed this little story time, and as always, hit that like button, leave your comments down below, share this video with anyone who is into classic cars, old-timers, or maybe you know somebody who is exactly into this particular car, so share this video with them. Comments are always welcome, and I'll be seeing you as fast as possible. Bye bye.